All across the country, an estimated 135 million square feet of buildings are demolished each year, erasing more than just brick and mortar. With every wrecking ball swing, we lose vital pieces of our shared history, culture, and identity. Here in Akron, that loss is especially poignant as we reflect on the landmarks that once defined our city's character. Founded in 1825 by General Simon Perkins and Paul Williams, Akron takes its name from the Greek word akros, meaning highest point, as it marks the peak of Summit County. Over 2 centuries, the city blossomed from nurturing the Quaker Oats legacy to becoming the nation's rubber capital of the world. Yet amid its growth, precious landmarks and stories were often lost as grand buildings fell to the wrecking ball. Still, as pieces of Akron's heritage threatened to fade into the dust, there were those determined to stand firm and preserve the stories that shaped their community, kindling a light of hope that would soon become. In July of 1984, Progress Through Preservation of Greater Akron, or PTP, emerged in direct response to the sweeping changes. Its mission remains steadfast: to encourage and promote the preservation, maintenance, restoration, and adaptive reuse of buildings and neighborhoods of historic or architectural significance.
From my childhood, I've seen so many incredible buildings knocked down, and invariably knocked down for nothing. That is to say, knocked down for a parking lot or a gas station. The thing that's clear and clearer to me is that preservation should play a big part in what we learn to do to help save the planet. In the future, there should be almost no new construction, and most construction in most places should have to do with adapting existing buildings. On the whole, I can't but be thankful for Progress Through Preservation. In order for a democracy to prevail, one must have eternal vigilance. Well, that goes the same for wanting to be successful at preservation.
Progress Through Preservation was created primarily as an organization to advocate for preservation, to be able to go up against city councils and county commissioners and administrators of all kinds in order to advocate for the preservation of historic properties. Nobody else had that role at the time. So PTP filled that whole hole and has over all these years. But you need these anchor institutions to sometimes kickstart the development by private developers. We've built it to the point where Akron is a reasonably attractive city. People who are visiting here remark about how clean the downtown area looks. All of these things had to work together to really sort of put us on the map in terms of the visitor status. And there was a movement by the university, by the Greater Akron Chamber, by the city, by the county, those 4 entities, to really start a movement towards attracting younger professionals. One aspect of that was that younger people wanted to go to some place that was authentic, not plastic, not looking like Everytown, USA. We have to give credit to Tony Tropy at this point in time. Tony did more than any other single individual to save our built legacy because he was willing to be the private developer in order to save buildings and to adaptively reuse them. But again, here's a person with great determination and a strong ethic about what is right and wrong about preservation. And so that has supported his efforts over these last 24 years.
The overwhelming response was, gee, what can we do to save it? Because this is the last historic theater that we have in Akron. There were others, but the Civic by far was the most elaborate. With what is being done in the programming, which has again become very, very successful, the Civic has a chance to shine. So that we're very happy about. They were trying to defend the idea that they thought it could be economically viable and that it could provide a certainly wonderful entertainment for the public. And the architecture itself was something you'll never see again. What we did involved a great part of Akron. People come through here all the time, and I've been here on many occasions, and I see people walk in, and the first thing they do is look up because they see how carefully the theater was restored. PTP is not about nostalgia or creating museums. We're trying to make sure that we save historically significant buildings because so many are going by the wayside. So whenever there's an opportunity, if we think it's warranted, we have obviously tried to make some sort of statement or some sort of commitment to help. And fortunately, that has been beneficial, I think, to the community. As you go into the future, you have to have some memory of your past. And if you don't, I think there's a disconnect. What we did was not in vain because we did make a contribution. I just am glad that it came out, the way it did, because we're the better for it.
When the opportunity came up to work on this project, it seemed like a good fit for me, and so I volunteered.
And I raised the money and he spent it.
That's about right.
Well, we first became aware of it when the park, which is adjacent to this building, was being restored in honor of Judy Ishroff, who was the first executive coordinator of Keep Akron Beautiful. We were pleased that after 25 years in existence, this was the first hands-on project that PTP had done. Well, I think people should feel proud that Progress Through Preservation saved this historic structure. Just has become a little jewel in the crown of this West Akron neighborhood.
I just think it's important for people to know how we got here, and what steps it took.
They should understand that many of the original components of this building were preserved. For instance, the 9/9 windows with the sash cords were saved, the floor was saved, things that were done to restore it to its original condition.
And it was a challenge for all of us to put our heads together, figure out what to do and how to approach it. It's a good example of what can be done, when you have an organization that's willing to commit to preservation. But I think that for future generations, it just shows a way for people to get together and do what needs to be done.
The Musto House and Store only amplifies that commerce that the canal, largest public works program, brought to this area. So the gift from years ago keeps giving, and let's just hope future generations will keep preserving and keep giving to our children's children.
Well, I hope when they come down here and see the lock system, because it is one of the places where you can go and see so many, close together, that they get a little understanding of what was transpiring here in terms of commerce and just feel a sense of connection to Akron and to the land here. You're one of the special ones. If you make it here, you are getting to see a little hidden secret if you are one of the ones that comes down here.
I read back that there were as many as 70 canal boats that traveled in front of this store on a given day. It was all built by hand. To think, how could that happen? And that's the reason we're next door to downtown Akron. If there was no canal, there would not have been an Akron. So this canal and the Musto House and Store is even a bigger thing next door to what was considered to be the largest public works program since the Egyptian pyramid.
If you can find the time in your busy day to look around and see what needs preserved, you will find something in yourself that's happier because you have kept a part of our history. Then you always have that pride in saving something that is important for all of us to have, which is sort of grounding.
So Glendale Steps are a hidden gem in Akron. I see it as a centerpiece to what's a historic area. It's really Akron, one of Akron's cultural heritage spots, with the Glendale Cemetery, with the towpath being adjacent to downtown. Monuments like this are important, and once you lose them, they're gone forever. I think of them as kind of secular relics. It's a good thing. Otherwise, our connection to our past is lost, and what makes us unique.
Getting the Glendale Steps listed in the National Register was what we saw as the first step towards getting recognition for the site statewide and locally. And also it opens the door for grants and for more publicity and protection as well. That was a big factor. That was our kind of first step in the project.
You never accomplish any of these things as an individual or individual organization. It's always a collaborative and community project. So I think that's the challenge, getting everybody on board, not just PTP, and then raising the money, which I think will happen.
Now that we've been working with the city, we have some city council people asking us for help and collaborating with us on other threatened properties throughout the city. So I think this is a great start. And I just would like to see us helping the community in various different ways to preserve buildings from small to big.
That's what it will accomplish. It's going to connect Akron and the neighborhoods that were cut off by the freeway and the West Hill Historic District. With our technology and everything, we don't really fully appreciate how creative and inventive and capable people were 100, 200 years ago about building things that were beautiful and precise.
We are trying to assist people in preserving things. We're not here to just, criticize or protest. We want to really be positive and be partners with the community. So that's our goal, and that's what we hope to continue building in the city.
This organization was built on the vision and dedication of its founding members and leaders. Their passion laid the groundwork for everything PTP would become. Today, we pause to honor those who came before us and to reflect on the legacies of our vital members who are no longer with us. Among them, Elizabeth Sandwick, Ramona Delaney Smith, Rosemary Raymond, and Virginia Bueno.
Well, Jenny Bueno, she had a way of igniting causes that needed to be saved. PTP and that movement influenced Jenny, I, and many others in that day and age to begin to start looking around, and we better look to save it before possibly the wrecking ball would take it down. Jenny had a love for history. As I said to you before, she lived in a big mansion called the Bueno House that Walter Voino's family had lived in for many years at Copley and Dagenham Road. The mansion had been torn down to make Saferstein Towers, but she lived in that gatehouse all the way until the day she died, with the acknowledgement that it would eventually, after her passing, would become part of the zoo, which we're all most very proud of.
For 40 years, Progress Through Preservation has championed the renewal of Akron and Summit County's architectural treasures. Each achievement stands as a testament to Akron's ongoing commitment to remembering and rebuilding its past. Those who choose to preserve our past also preserve our futures.
the preservation movement wasn't around back in the 50s, or for that the 60s. As we know, we've lost so much of downtown Akron. Preservation is a gift for the people who will follow us in the future. And that's why it's so important for all of us to be preservationists.
Places like the Glendale Steps are what make Akron unique. To me, this is our identity as a city. You know, you preserve those things that are special about your community, and that's how you pass on your history and your heritage. There's just no connection like that.
This was saved because it could have been torn down, and all these materials would have gone into a landfill. So the preservation of some of our iconic buildings and historical buildings in this area is important, so that we have preserved not only the history of the buildings themselves, but how they were used and what they meant to people who lived here.
It's a shared experience and collective, and it's what we are all about as humans. You know, we're not by ourselves. It's a lot more than that.
To know that there are others that are willing to take our place, you know, continue to see the organization go forward. That's the greatest hope we have, that PTP will be here for a long time.
As we commemorate 40 years of preserving Summit County's history, we look towards the next chapter with optimism. The future of PTP lies in the hands of people like you, those who volunteer, become members, and advocate for preservation in their own neighborhoods. Together, we can write a new page in Akron's history, one that honors our past while creating a meaningful and transformative future. If you have an interest in historic preservation in our region and want to support the efforts of Progress Through Preservation of Greater Akron, please visit our website and consider joining PTP.